Alexander began his campaign to Asia from his birthplace town of Pella in 334 BC. Leading an army of 35,000 men, he crossed the Hellespont, and upon arriving in Troy, he honored his favorite hero Achilles. In May of the same year, he defeated the local Persian satraps near the banks of the Granicus River. This victory allowed him to proceed to the occupation of the entire Asia Minor and liberate all the Greek cities. In the year 333 BC, he went to the city of Gordium, where he cut the famous Gordian knot, putting an end to the myth according to which any man who could unravel its elaborate knots would become ruler of all Asia. In the meantime, the Persian king Darius III assembled a force of 100,000 soldiers to stop the king of Macedon, and in November of 333 BC, the two kings crossed swords for the first time in the plain of Issus. Alexander won a major victory, while his defeated opponent fled the battlefield. In the summer of 332 BC, Alexander directed his troops south towards Phoenicia, and after a 7-month siege, he captured the city of Tyre, important for its strategic position. Continuing further south, successively occupying Palestine and Egypt, he founded the famous city of Alexandria on the west side of the Nile and visited the oracle of Ammon-Zeus, where the Egyptian priests proclaimed him Son of God. After regrouping his army, he returned to Phoenicia and headed for the Euphrates River, establishing several new cities in his passage. He crossed the river Tigris and reached the plateau of Gaugamela, where in October of 331 BC, he defeated for the second time the Persian king Darius, who survived and fled east to Media. After the decisive victory at Gaugamela, the Greek commander continued his advance, and once occupied the major cities of Babylon and Susa, he entered the full of riches capital of the Persian Empire, Persepolis, in 330 BC. He remained in Persepolis for a few months, and then marched towards the city of Ecbatana, seeking Darius. Ecbatana was occupied, and the purpose of the campaign was successfully completed. Alexander was now the undisputed leader in Asia. Learning that the satrap Bessus arrested Darius and took control, he moved east to pursue him. Along the way, through the eastern satrapies of the Persian Empire, Alexander eliminated all his opponents, who did not declare allegiance, and finally arrested and punished Bessus, who, in the meantime, had killed the captive King Darius. Moving even further and passing by the frozen mountain range of the Himalayas in the spring of 327 BC, he launched a campaign into India. He crossed the Indus River, and in the spring of 326 BC, reaching the Hydaspes River, he confronted and defeated the Indian king Porus in a fierce battle. After marching almost 20,000 kilometers through hardships and battles, 8 years away from their homeland, the soldiers of Alexander persuaded him to order for the return. The way back was made by land and by sea. Alexander and his general Craterus led his army ashore, while the fleet, led by Neros, sailed along the coast of Persia. Finally, the troops arrived at Susa, where in the spring of 324 BC, celebrations were held for completing the conquest of Persia. Later, Alexander returned to Babylon, organizing new campaigns and designing ambitious projects. But he suddenly fell ill, and in June of 323 BC, the great Greek king died.